John Scott, Lindsey Moppert, Vic Carucci here. Bills winning 34-10 over the Tennessee Titans. It was all about Amari Cooper from the very beginning. Lindsey, in the beginning for Amari Cooper, wasn't great.
Yeah, I mean, but in the end, John, which is what matters the most, he didn't disappoint, right? I think his debut probably went as well as many fans could hope. Again, considering, Vic, that he did drive here from Cleveland on Tuesday night, had to cram in all of this information. I think he did pretty well for himself.
I think that speaks volumes about the kind of player the Bills have added to this team. A guy conscientious. I mean, yeah, he's a pro. He's getting paid good money to play this game, but he put in the work, and you heard that theme. Josh Allen mentioned it. Sean McDermott mentioned it. The extra time he poured in with his position coaches, the time he took to study a playbook. And like he said, a playbook contains hundreds of plays. He said, I've got a good memory, but not quite that good. But you could see a guy who was pretty locked in, dialed in this game.
17 snaps total, the three of us helping each other get to that number here. 5 targets, 4 catches, 66 yards, a touchdown, and then the drop on the very first target he saw from Josh Allen. I agree. I think the expectations and the production as good as it can get. And I think, Lindsey, what's maybe the best part about today for Bills fans is if this is maybe the baseline of what you're going to get out of Amari Cooper when he doesn't really know a whole heck of a lot, the expectation is moving forward, the sky really seems to be the limit.
Yeah, and he said that he felt 100% confident when asked about his comfortability today in his debut. He said he was confident in the plays that were aimed towards him, of course, but as you said, looking ahead and moving forward now as he kind of continues to build that chemistry with Josh Allen, his quarterback, which he mentioned is the most important thing. You know, you can only imagine where they go as a pair from here.
And I think the other thing you really have to like about his debut is others did eat at the receiver position, you know, using that phrase. You saw Coleman, of course, have a big day. Khalil Shakir, there was one drive basically devoted to him late in the game. So I get the sense that, yes, obviously Amari Cooper is going to be probably the number one factor as the offense goes as a receiver, but I feel that a lot is going to grow from his presence.
This is all well and good. It was golly awful to start the game. I was going to go a different route there, but hey, we got to be professional here. They stunk. Josh Allen was like 1 of 5. They had 18 yards of total offense in the first quarter. Outside of the touchdown drive, I think they had less than 30 yards of total offense in the entire first half. Yeah, you can maybe gloss over it if you want, like some guys maybe will, because they ripped off 34 unanswered points and they win the game, and Josh Allen's over 300 yards and all of this. But this is something that we've seen far too often and regularly this season, and to me, it killed him in the game against the Ravens. It killed him against the Houston Texans, even though they came back to tie that. You're digging these holes, and to me, it's why is the offense having so many struggles out the gate?
Yeah, and Sean McDermott, too, saying afterwards that he did feel like they were prepared, which is interesting coming from him. Josh Allen mentioning that he felt it said even more about this team, the fact that they were able to kind of bounce back. But as you said, that's not really the point. The point is, why is this happening, right? And I think it's important, as Vic, you were kind of mentioning earlier, that if they want to go any further, this can't be a problem because you're going to run into teams where they're going to destroy you and take advantage of you when you're playing like this.
Yeah, I don't know that I would panic over this. It's definitely something you look at and think about. Josh Allen made reference to the fact that, yeah, he's got to be better, all of that. I don't see it as a team that's not prepared or a team that doesn't feel like in the mood to play a game. I don't see that. I do see, execution issues and falling short. Again, did they get a little mentally lazy because this was the Titans? This wasn't a really good team that they couldn't get excited about. But we've seen them do this against better clubs. So it is something to look at. But I also think that in some ways it feels like a boxing match. Like they've got to measure what this opponent is about before they find their groove, right? You see that in the boxing ring sometimes. But yeah, you can't ignore that they went 3 and out on those first 3 series, and you can't ignore that they didn't get their first down until the early part of the second quarter.
But we will go positive, Lindsey. They have an amazing ability to figure out what the heck was wrong and right the ship in the second half. That's where I think I get lost in the sauce here is why is it this clear divide? Clearly the adjustments the coaching staff is making, they have that ability, and offensively. A lot of times it's scripted to start. And Dawson Knox saying things of like, oh, we're just getting not necessarily looks we aren't prepared for, but different looks, as much film as you can watch. I'm just still trying to figure out 7 games in, the team's 5-2. You're going to be happy with that, but this is a problem.
Well, I was going to say, and let's not just put it on execution. The coaching is part of this. I thought Joe Brady's play calling was far from impressive, needed to figure that out, and I get the feeling that they're sort of scouting the game as it's going on and adjusting. Same with Bobby Babich on the defensive side. I know we'll talk more about that, but the defense started slow as well, yet, and we've seen him do this before, find those adjustments in the second half.
Defensively, I agree with you here. Mason Rudolph getting the start, and I think, honestly, this is something that benefited the Tennessee Titans and hurt the Bills, because Will Levis is a wild card out there. He probably has the ability, unlike Rudolph, to take the top off defenses and really be someone who can make splash plays. But Rudolph is a consistent guy, and it's like death by 1,000 paper cuts that first few series here, whether it was running the football or doing quick passes, Lindsay. The Bills were struggling, and we've seen that type of offensive attack get them early in other games as well.
And again, as you were saying, it's not really just the offense. We've seen this where the defense comes out slow, as they did here. And speaking with Damar Hamlin after the game and Greg Russo, they both, went straight to that response of getting back to our, level of play and kind of settling in and things like that. But yeah, there are these adjustments where you're kind of wondering, where was that to begin with?
Yeah, and again, up in the coaching box, Bobby Babich, and of course Sean McDermott's part of this as well, but studying and seeing what this Titans offense was all about. And really the biggest problem was they allowed them to be too versatile. They had ability to kind of throw whatever they wanted at the Bills because they were multi-dimensional, and that's usually a problem for a defense. But to see it rise to the occasion, and not just the couple of turnovers they got, the interception that Hamlin got late in the game, a fumble that was forced, but on top of that sequence in the third quarter where you had a third down stop of Tony Pollard that was for a loss, a 1 yard loss, and then they go for it on fourth down. They were at their 45, I think, where it started, and then they get a 3 yard dump of Pollard. Dwayne Carter just coming in and dragging him down. And how inspiring was that for the entire team? And then, boom, you get the Cooper touchdown pass after that, and you felt that from here on the route would be on.
I'll say this, and this is a Sean McDermott thing, but I've always felt the X factor for this defense, this team, is the defensive front. Greg Rousseau is back to what we saw early in the year, what we saw in the preseason. That guy was on fire today. 5 or 6 quarterback hits, half of a sack here. I mean, he was as disruptive as we've seen him, and I think to no surprise then, the defense continuing to surge in that second half.
And something I wanted to say about Greg Russo as well, we were asking him about, that performance that he had, and we haven't really seen that since week 1, really, where he recorded those 3 sacks. But he kind of said, that they feed off of each other. He and his teammates, they feed off each other. They take turns, making those plays. But something interesting that I wanted to mention about, the Titans offense specifically is he pretty much said, which I thought was interesting, that eventually they run out of kind of going for these trick plays, right? And at the end of the day, you get down to the point where you're just playing football.
Right.
And I thought that was interesting because he kind of said, well, and then we were settled in and we just went down there and we played our level of football, right?
Yeah, and the other thing, too, is health. Let's not discount that. Getting some people back, like Ed Oliver, and then we saw what happened when Taron Johnson and Taylor Rapp came back against the Jets the previous week. It feels like this defense is getting healthier at the right time now. We'll keep an eye on Terrell Bernard. Had an ankle injury, couldn't return from that. Tried to, but couldn't get back. And look, you don't want to see him out for any length of time because he is a dynamic playmaker, a force, a leader, a captain. So that is something to kind of look at as we get to the long haul.
I want to end here because Tyler Bass was getting a lot of things this week, and I'll give our Jonathan Acosta a shout out for going and talking. Yeah, he just looked his head up from Twitter for the first time in 10 minutes. He spoke with Tyler Bass this week, and it was tough because Tyler has struggled. The Bills signed a kicker to the practice squad, and Tyler Bass, as professional, and stood there and was honest about it. And I saw some things circulating on Twitter going into this game of fans saying, hey, let's cheer him. Let's try to lift him up and see what that can do for his performance. I spoke with him after the game, and he admitted, like, yeah, these guys talk about how tunnel vision they are. It meant a lot to him from the second for warm-ups he walked out of this tunnel, and he performed, and that's an encouraging sign.
Yeah, and that not only, tells the Bills that they can count on him in those tough moments, but it brings his confidence back. Because as you said, you add a kicker to the practice squad. Obviously, things are kind of circulating in your mind to begin with. I give him a lot of props for being so honest and open and speaking with Jonathan about some of those tougher subjects. And it was nice to see the crowd here evidently, giving him a little bit of extra cheers and
Yeah, and the crowd is paying, I'm sure, far more attention. We know they were far more attention. We were too, to extra point kicks, things that look routine. There's nothing routine when you're struggling as a kicker, when you had that missed field goal and the missed extra point against the Jets on a night when that could have proved very costly in that big win that they had at MetLife Stadium. And the comeback in the same week, and Sean McDermott acknowledged it too, the tough week that he had, and he unprompted, McDermott mentioned how Tyler Bass responded, executed. Look, it's not one and done here. No. I think we're going to be going week to week to see how he performs. When you've added a kicker to the practice squad, you're ready to sort of reach into that golf bag, so to speak, and possibly pull out a different club.
I will say the wind here, as Lindsay's ponytail is illustrating very well, is
whipping
best. Around here. I've avoided it, and Tyler Bass was able to navigate it as well to be perfect on all 5 kicks he had here.
Good transition.
Exactly. That's why they pay me. And Bills at the Seahawks get to go clear across the country here to face a team that, again, better than the Tennessee Titans, one that absolutely can and will throw the ball a lot against them. Kenneth Walker III has been very great at the running back position. It's going to be a challenge. They're going to have to not fall into a hole and not be absolutely awful in the first half on either side of the ball. With Lindsay Maubert, Vic Carucci, I'm John Scott for Channel 2 Sports.